Hello Galactic family. Well dear friends, I am very happy to meet you again. I present to you all my blessings and, if you wish, for a few moments, let us be silent to theophanize all together for a few minutes before giving your questions of the moment a free course. Silence, and I thank you for such a warm and hearty welcome, is not it? So we can begin to move forward together in everything that may present itself to you as questions. So, I'll listen to the questions. I have things to say, but I think I'll have the opportunity to say them through your different questions that should not be missed, with this June that has just been drained. So I listen to you, dear friend. Question: returning after a disappearance at the end of an intervention, I had two flashes. To my right, I recognized a neighbor sitting in her chair walking out into the living room. To my left, people were sitting around a table while there is no table in the room. What is this experience? Is it a relocation of consciousness? One what? Question: a relocation of consciousness? No, a fragmentation. Why the word fragmentation is bizarre as a word. Fragmentation means explosion. There, it is not really a fragmentation, or even the word that was used. When you come back, as was said by this brother or sister, you have a moment that is usually very short, when you go from the disappearance, that is, the absolute, to the person. You know that it is extremely difficult to stabilize, if I may say, consciousness, at the limit of your own disappearance. However, this is where the formal proofs of what is experienced take place. However, when you come back in person, there are actually elements, in this case with known people, a group that is unknown, that manifest. I do not think you can get information on what is happening at this time, especially if it concerns neighbors, like here, or a group of individuals. It is not really a vision of return that I would call archetypal or grand symbolism. I cannot tell you what it is, but I do not think this is extremely significant of anything. It is only a vision that appeared at the time of your return, as you say. The scene is very brief, you say it's a flash yourself. A flash, it's an image and then nothing. I do not think you need to look for anything regarding this because you will see, and many of you have already experienced, in fact, during the disappearance process or during the return process, there are a lot of visual or other information that may be present, which are fragments, as has been said previously, species of fragments of all possible. You cannot, how to say, connect this to yours personal history, or whatever is personal to you, because the images you bring at that moment are fleeting images, that is, as flashes, which do not necessarily have an explanation, but which correspond to all possible that can be seen when your consciousness is at the limit, I would say, of a consciousness, and giving you to see a form of sphere with all possible and all possible of all forms and all consciousnesses. This is not necessarily translated into your experience, it is only a testimony that you have remained, even in the form of flash, a few short moments between the disappearance and the awakening of the person, in that infinite presence. That is all I can say, but do not look there, especially in the processes that many of you see and will see if you develop more and more. For example, if you are in contact with the people of nature, you have the habit of feel and see the presence of an elf and make a difference with a gnome or a community of dragons, but then in the process of disappearance as in the processes of nature, you will realize that you see more and more things. Do not seek necessarily try to understand, explain or enter into relationship, because you will somehow discover a new world, which not locked, more confined. It is the same for you. It is as if you were walking in a big city crowd and you are trying to find signs in all the individuals that you are going to cross when you walk in that city, which would be rather illusory. They are the facets of oneness through separate consciousnesses, in the forms that you know, human, but it is not the truth, so do not seek to understand what is produced in those moments. In the same way in nature, you will realize, if it has not already been done, and even in you, that there are innumerable forms, which are not necessarily the consciences, but which are extremely varied forms of light, and particularly the geometrical forms that you are completely unknown and you cannot even define because the form is very complex and does not correspond to anything known. It's the same principle. They are not necessarily for you. They are just things that cross you in a certain state of consciousness that is just before your own disappearance. The analogy is similar on the level, as I said, if you move in one place. It is as if you enter a room and you will look for a connection with you, with the different objects that are present. I would say that somehow it is better to lose this habit in order to stop nothing, and also if you allow yourself to pass through experience or vision, and realize that you are neither this vision nor that experience. This is the best way to let go, I would say, of your usual reflexes at the level of energy, vibration, or visual processes, whatever they are, to remain in the observer, in the witness, in the infinite presence where there is no need, nor to justify what is seen, what is perceived, but still live plus the immersion in the eternity of the present moment. Nothing more and nothing less. And these experiences are driven to reproduce more and more often. You wonder what will happen if you put yourself trying to explain, understand or apprehend what is seen and perceived. It's a waste of time. Live fully what it is for to live, whatever the degree of information or the intensity of the relationship. Bathe in what is produced and not in interpretations, even after, or in the needs of justifications. As dreams, I have had great pleasure in explaining them, and I think we will have others, of course, in the genre of processes corresponding to the passage, so to speak, of superconsciousness to a-consciousness. You have nothing to retain, even which are indirect evidences, not of your fragmentation or of your explosion, but of your capacity of consciousness, of your superconsciousness, to explore all possible and all impossible. But these are only experiences. Is not that the most important thing? It's not the experience. It's like today you meet in what you have to live every minute, is not it? Are you at peace? Are you in serenity? Or are you not necessarily in fear, but in doubt about what you live? You see, the attitude of spirit, if I may say, that you must maintain, is transparency. And transparency is not only being transparent with the other, but it is also being transparent with yourself, that is, not stopping, not conceptualizing, not interpreting to remain available, no longer for experience, but for the permanence of the state of peace and of the state of happiness. This is what I can answer to that question. But in this case, more precisely, I am not sure that these flashes have informative value for you. They are only testimonies of the expansion of consciousness and its pseudo-fragmentation. Fragmentation obliges you to collect the pieces, but to collect the pieces is not done by your will or by your intellect. This is done only by the fact of doing nothing, of not understanding, of explaining and staying in the present moment. Do the experience, if it has not already been done, and you will verify for yourself that joy. It is precisely when nothing can divert you from that joy that is installed, and especially not the visions or the spiritual mechanisms. It's different from what can happen in your dreams, is not it? Because in the mechanisms of alignment, of meditation, of heart to heart, of theophany, of repose, of non-action, You are going to cross the strata anyway, are you not? This can be vibrating, it can be visual, it can be tingling sensations, this can be no matter what at the level of the body or consciousness, but do not stand or break because of this. Be content to let yourself pass through the transparency of what emerges from consciousness, especially at the time of disappearances or the returns of your disappearances. Certainly it is passionate to see, but, as I said, it is extremely difficult to remain stable in this whole view of the game of consciousness, of all consciousnesses, wherever they are situated. Most importantly, it is not the games of consciousness. You will have all the time, after your collective release, to play all the games that you want. At the moment, what is necessary in this period of tribulation that you have lived for almost a month is to remain what you are and not be attracted by whatever is manifesting, because it is always the spiritual ego that wants to take ownership of this. You see? Remain neutral with regard to what is presented to you, what is perceived, and you will be lighter and freer from your own visions. The beatitude, the heart of the heart, the infinite presence, the absolute, have no need to lean on any vision, any perception, or any presence. You see, it's always that kind of progression in freedom that you live, that you do. And remember that whatever emerges from consciousness is known to you, even if you have the impression of not understanding, and the absolute is unknown.